back to the book bunch. If you're new, hello, please like and subscribe. If you are not new, thank you for joining me again for another video. This time we're going through my part 2 of my October reads for the month. I did get quite a lot of books done this month, but I was rather surprised about, so we're going to go through the next lot now. So one of the best books that I read this month was Before the Coffee Gets Cold. I will be doing a standalone review on this one because I just think that this is an incredibly profound book that I feel like everybody should read. Almost like it should be mandatory in school, but I know when you read mandatory books in school you hate them, so maybe not a mandatory read at school, but you get the idea. I think every human should read this book. It is a sci-fi book about a cafe in Japan, and basically these people, when they visit the cafe, they have the opportunity to go back in time, but there's a bunch of rules within the cafe. So one of them is you can only go back in time to see someone who has also visited the cafe, and basically their decisions to go back, why they go back, because the key part of this is it doesn't change the present. So it basically plays with like, well, what would be the point in going back if you can't actually change things, and all that kind of stuff. It goes through people getting closure for different things, and it was just phenomenal. Like I said, I'll be doing a standalone review, so stay tuned for that one. I gave this a 5 out of 5 stars. Here we have the worst read that I had this month. I DNF'd this book. I did not like it. I'm glad that I kind of gave up on it, to be honest. I picked this up and I'm kind of annoyed because I hunted everywhere. I got my husband to help me hunt everywhere for a copy of this book because it was sold out everywhere, because it had a lot of hype on like BookTok and BookTube and stuff like that. And I got it and I was super excited, and so I picked it up straight away and I hated it. So I didn't finish it. This is The Seven Husbands of Evelyn, Hugo by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Basically, the fictional celebrity gets this journalist to come sit down with her in the guise of, hey, I'm going to give you a headline article for this media company you work for. But in reality, actually, I'm not. I want you to write my biography. She is obviously willing to do that, so we follow basically her writing down the story of this lady called Evelyn, and she is a famous actress who is now obviously retired. She's in her 80s, and it goes through all of the different marriages that she had and that failed basically. And I didn't like this, not only because it went in an unexpected direction, but also she basically just goes through all of the husbands that she kind of used or were abused by, and all of this kind of heavy stuff. There's a lot of manipulation, a lot of take, a lot of I'll just use you to get to where I want, or I'll fake this relationship with you for publicity reasons and things like that. So I just really didn't enjoy it. I don't recommend this book. I mean, obviously everyone has their taste, and some people like more gossipy, romancy type books. I am not one of those people. I don't have anything against people who do, but it's really not my taste. So if that is your taste, definitely go for it. If it's not though, and you're a bit more like me and you just like fantasy and lighthearted and sci-fi and things like that, this probably is not the book for you. So yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't finish it. It was my worst read of the month. Here we have H.G. Wells' The Island of Dr. Moreau. I will be doing a video on all of the H.G. Wells books that I have ever read, because I've been collecting his books. I love him as an author. This book is basically about this island that this guy gets shipwrecked on, and he finds out that there is this doctor on the island, and like the doctor's minion basically, and this doctor has been manipulating animal DNA to basically make them humanoid, hence the photo on the front, which is half human, half leopard. And it is, yeah, basically about this guy trying to survive this island and all of this stuff that goes down on this island and him trying to escape. It was really, really good. I was really captivated. I read it in only a few hours because it's not a huge book, but I did really like it. I do think it is one of H.G. Wells' better books. Wouldn't say it was my favourite, but it was definitely up there in the higher range of his novels. So I do recommend this book. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Then we have H.G. Wells' The Time Machine. I probably like this a little bit less than The Island of Dr. Moreau. I'd probably give this like a 3.75 if that's a real scoring system. It is about this guy who obviously invents a time machine. He goes forward in time, like way forward in time, to basically where the earth doesn't exist how we know it, and it's like completely changed. There's no longer humans. There's like these creatures, but that are semi-intelligent, but they're not human. They're not even really animal either. And it's split into 2 groups. So there's the people who live above the earth, and then the people who live below, and how they've kind of evolved. And basically he gets stuck there because his time machine gets stolen while he's there, and he has to try and get it back and like get back to the present. It was good. It was a really short read, so like I wouldn't say I was bored at any point. It just wasn't my favourite H.G. Wells book. It's probably in the middle somewhere. But for a sci-fi read, really good. So I definitely would recommend this to people who like sci-fi because it was a really good read. I know it is super famous. It's been made into multiple different movies, so you might have already seen the story or heard of the story, but I definitely recommend reading the original. Then we had Frankenstein by Mary Shelley, which I read because obviously spooky season. Not really that I get into spooky season, but I just thought, hey, why not read a classic that's a little bit spooky. So this is the original Frankenstein novel. It basically follows obviously Dr. Frankenstein and then his monster, and basically it's way deep. Like there's way more involved than I thought there was. I did struggle to read this though, just because of how Mary Shelley writes and everything, because obviously it was a different time when she wrote it, but because we don't speak in that way or read in that way anymore, trying to read it was a little bit difficult. Like it took me a hot minute to kind of get used to it, and I wouldn't necessarily say that I liked the reading style. So yeah, it's kind of up to you. If you read lots of classics, you're probably fine with it. If you don't though, you might find it a little bit tough. But basically it follows the actual true story. Well, not that it's a true story, but like the original rendition of Frankenstein, which the movies have definitely warped, I would say, because this goes way more into depth of like it basically skims over him creating the monster, and the focus of the story is like his relationship with the monster afterwards, and what the monster kind of does to him and what he does to the monster, and like it's a story of revenge and like I guess duty of like, well, if you've created this thing, don't you have a responsibility to it, and or like does your responsibility to it outweigh your responsibility to the rest of humanity, and different things like that. It was definitely really interesting. It was a bit of a slower read just because it was harder for me to like it was a bit of a slog basically to read through her writing style, but I still liked it. I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, so it was alright. If you like classics, I'd say recommend it. If you like spooky books, definitely probably read it, but if neither of those things are your thing, then it would probably be a pass. But yeah, 3 out of 5 stars. Then I read Clara and the Sun. This book has been going around a little bit because it is quite good, but also it's just been picked up in the hype. This book is a sci-fi book. It is basically following the perspective of an AI in the future and her journey as basically a companion bot to a little girl. So basically in this version of Earth, all of the children have basically, not all, but most of the children have these AI friends that help look after them. They look after them when they're sick, they help them with schoolwork, they help them to socialise, different things like that. And this follows Clara, who is the AI, and then her relationship with the little girl that she looks after who is sick and struggling with the disease. This book was surprisingly heart-wrenching at the end. Like, I wasn't expecting it to end the way it did. Like, not that I'd say it was like a twist, because like it's not like a thriller or anything, or like a mystery, but like just the way that it kind of resolved, I was like, oh, okay. Like, it took me a minute to kind of absorb it all, and it was kind of emotional. I didn't like cry, but like it made me sad. Definitely. Yeah, because it kind of goes through the journey of an AI and like kind of what happens to them, and like, I don't know, it was really interesting, but yeah, really sad. Really sad. I do definitely recommend it though. I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It was definitely a good read. I don't know if I'd read it again just because of like how sad it was, but I definitely recommend reading it at least once, especially if you like sci-fi or anything to do with robots. Even if you don't though, like, I feel like it's even just like a story of friendship and like just our need for other people, and kind of what can happen if you become too dependent on other people and different things like that. So yeah, I'd say it's probably sci-fi contemporary, and it was good, but yeah, emotions. So the last 2 books that I have is the second and third book in the Witcher series. So I had the Sword of Destiny, which is the second of the short story compilations, which is basically set before the actual Witcher section starts. This was really good. I'd say I liked it teensy bit less than The Last Wish, because I love The Last Wish. This is still 5 out of 5 stars, but if I really had to do a ranking scale, I would say that I like The Last Wish just a little bit better. But I love the short stories. Like, I think the format is really good for The Witcher and the environment, rather than just following the one continuous story. Like, I like that it kind of jumps around to different things that have happened to The Witcher, but it was all interconnected, but like, it wasn't just like, oh, I was here and then I walked here and then this kind of happened. It's just like, oh, this bit of happened, like this memory happened and this memory happened and this happened, but it all like, yeah, string together, and so you kind of cut out the non-important bits, I guess, and it was just like action after action after action, but in a good way. I really, really liked it. I gave it 5.5. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. Yeah, basically it continues to follow Geralt and kind of his relationship with different people, what kind of happens to him. This one does have mermaids in it, so if you like that kind of thing, definitely give this one a read, because mermaids. It also, yeah, just follows his relationship with like Yennefer and his like constant struggle with that, and also his relationship with his basically, I want to say protege, like apprentice, I don't really know. He basically meets her. So yeah, it was really, really good. Definitely recommend. 5 out of 5 stars. Loving the Witcher series. There is a little bit of smut in there. I skipped those pages because I don't need to read about that. I get the general idea, so I just skip them, but there's only like 1 page of it in here, or 2 in total, so like, it was nothing. It was fine. Yeah, love this one. And then to follow that up, like I said, I read The Witcher Blood of Elves, which is the first book in the continuous series, but this does take place after the 2 compilations of short stories. So this one is more continuous, which I don't like as much. So for me, this was more of a 4.5 out of 5 stars than a 5-star. Still loved it. Still love being in the world. I never want to stop being in the Witcher world. I love it. I love Geralt. I wish that this was more Geralt heavy, because this one, Geralt kind of goes into the background and he's more like a secondary character than the main character in this one. But I'm definitely going to pick up the rest because I really, really love it. I just love pretending that I'm in the Skyrim world, but not because it's the Witcher world. But like, they're so similar that it's just so good. And yeah, I loved it. It was pretty good. I don't think this one had any smut from memory. I read this at the start of the month, so I can't quite remember. But yeah, it was really good. Definitely recommend. Will be definitely reading the rest of them. Well, that was part 2 of my October reads. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of those ones, your thoughts on any of those ones. If you want me to elaborate further on any of those books, let me know. I probably will be doing a couple of individual reviews, like I said, especially for the Before the Coffee Gets Cold book, because that one is so good. So keep your eyes peeled for that one. And if you have any recommendations for what I should read for the month of November, let me know in the comments below, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!